Hello everyone. It's been a while since my last video. I've just had a lot going on in my life and I haven't been able to dedicate the kind of time I wanted to a video. But I really wanted to talk about the Resident Evil 2 remake release on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and PC. So the footage you're seeing, of course, is Resident Evil 2 Remake running on PlayStation 5. And it is not running with ray tracing. And I will get into that in a minute. So it's the exact same game. If you've already played this before, there's no new content. Everything's the same. On PlayStation 5, you do have to download an entirely new version of the game. Unfortunately, that's the way Sony does it. On Xbox Series and PC, it's just done via patch. So, but let's talk about the new thing. So everything new is, of course, technical. So first off, the big thing, of course, is there is support for ray tracing, and it is ray trace reflection. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any footage of the ray traced reflections. When I recorded it, I forgot that if you record your footage afterwards, it records it at 1080p. If you set it to record from the beginning, you can record up to 4K. So the footage you're seeing is being recorded at 4K. And I didn't want to throw footage of the game running at 4K and then later have it switch over to 1080p showing the ray tracing. But even with that said, the ray tracing itself, like I said, ray trace reflections, it doesn't dramatically alter the look of the game, and the ray tracing is not even that noticeable unless you really look. Shiny surfaces or in puddles of water, you'll see the ray tracing. And it's a cool effect, but it has a huge performance hit. So, best to leave it off. But here's anyways the new technical edition. So for starters, the game appears to run potentially at 4K. It's running sharper than how it ran on PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. According to Digital Foundry, Resident Evil 2 and I believe Resident Evil 3 ran at 1620p. And they both used a form of image reconstruction, so it lent the game a softer look than what the actual resolution was. This does not appear to be using image reconstruction at all. It's very sharp. And it looks really good, so I'm guessing it's potentially native 4K. And I don't know what other changes they've done to the graphics beyond the higher resolution. It's possible that the texture quality could have been also improved, or maybe it's just the higher resolution. I don't know, but textures do look noticeably sharper. And here's the problem. When you enable ray tracing mode, it seems to keep everything the same, including the resolution. And so I'm guessing, let's say it's running at native 4K. The resolution itself does not change, and none of the other features appear to change in terms of gameplay settings. And the ray tracing just takes a huge hit on performance. It seemed to be in the 50s, the 40s, and the 30s, even right at the beginning here. So the ray tracing mode is not worth it. I don't believe VRR, if you have a TV that supports it, I don't believe that will save it. What Capcom really ought to do, and this is what I thought they would do before this came out, was they would simply drop the resolution. And that's what they should do. You turn ray tracing on, it should drop the resolution, maybe 1620p, 1440p, and you should probably get a locked 60 at that point. But the way they have it set up now, 60 with ray tracing is just not possible. And I'm guessing on Xbox Series X, it will probably be much the same. If you look at Resident Evil Village with its ray tracing on, that game ran at 60 about 95% of the time on both platforms. It was a little bit better on Series X. Series S, the ray tracing was just, it wasn't worth it because it took a huge performance hit. So I'm guessing on Series X, performance will probably be slightly better. Now, I do have Resident Evil 3 Remake. There's no footage of that in here. I did try it out a little bit without ray tracing on. I tried it out after I had played Resident Evil 2 with ray tracing on. Given that those games have similar performance levels, I'm guessing that ray tracing in Resident Evil 3 will probably incur a similar performance penalty. So it's not worth it, unfortunately. But it also doesn't add much either. So it's not a huge loss. Now, some other things, and this is specific to the PlayStation 5 version, you do get haptic feedback on the triggers, and the vibration is really nice. So, for example, if you're using more powerful guns, so I made use of the submachine gun, and then I tried the Gatling gun. The left trigger really applies a lot of pressure, where if you're using the pistol, there's barely any pressure there. It's a nice little touch. You also get 3D audio, and that, of course, is not specific to the PlayStation 5. That's in all versions. And again, the effect is really nice. I think the 3D audio is better than in what it was in the PlayStation 4 version, as well as the Xbox One X version, which is where I previously played this game. So, all in all, it's, Resident Evil 2 and 3, and I'll probably post some footage of some commentary free footage of Resident Evil 3 in the next day or two. But all in all, the upgrades are nice. It's nothing super substantial, but it definitely looks better. And again, don't use the ray tracing on console. I'm curious to see what it's like on Series S. I'm guessing maybe 1440p. But anyways, it's nice. It's fun. I'm going to play through 2 and 3 again. Now, the question for me is Resident Evil 7, which I will be trying. And I do own that on Xbox. I do have an Xbox Series X again. So I do have both versions of Resident Evil 7. So I can definitely put them to the test. But I am curious, given that that's an older game, and given that they were able to achieve ray tracing in Village, and it was able to maintain 60 most of the time, I'm curious if that may hold up better with the ray tracing than 2 and 3 do, given that 2 and 3 are visually more ambitious than 7. I don't know. I'll give it a shot. I'm also curious what other, because I have not played Resident Evil 7 yet. I downloaded it. Should also be noted that Resident Evil 7, normally when these games, when there's a PlayStation 5 version, typically the file sizes tend to get smaller because of the compression that the PlayStation 5 uses. But in this case, the game got bigger. It's 60 gigabytes, and that's with the DLC installed, versus I think it was 40 gigabytes for the PS4 version. So I'm curious to know what they've changed, because if I remember Resident Evil 7, I think it ran at around 1800p on PS4 Pro and native 4K on Xbox One X. So I'm curious what other things they could bring to that game besides ray tracing, and how will the ray tracing hold up. But anyways, they're not earth-shattering changes, but they're nice changes. Also, loading times are just a couple seconds. It just kind of fades in and fades out. It's very similar to if you played Village on PlayStation 5. It just fades in, fades out. Curious to know how it loads on Series X. I imagine it might be slightly longer, but maybe not by much. All in all, though, I've really enjoyed it. It's fun to come back and revisit these games, and I hope to put out more videos here soon. I want to talk about the Resident Evil 4 remake, as well as the Last of Us Part 1 remake. Certainly a lot of excitement for Resident Evil 4 remake, and it seems to be quite the opposite for The Last of Us Part 1 remake. But I'm very curious. I love The Last of Us Part 1, and I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil 4. So the fact that we're getting remakes of those two games just months apart from each other is exciting to me. Anyways, that will be it for me. And yeah, if you have these games, it's fun to go back and just check out the the slightly improved visuals. And if you have never had a chance to play Resident Evil 2, 3, or 7, go check them out. They usually go on sale quite often, so I would wait. I don't think they're on sale at the time of I'm making this video, but check them out. Anyways, that's enough for me for now. Until next time.